Everybody, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my YouTube. Today I'm here with a project for Fancy Pants. I'm using the new Dream Big collection for this project. I really love the fun colors in this collection and it can be used for so many different things. So I really wanted to use these pictures of my daughter. So we took these at a baseball game or soccer game, I guess probably about a month ago, and I thought they would be good with the cloud background here. So I'm going to use those. And I really had no big plan for this page when I got started. I knew I wanted to use these photos and have one kind of on each side of the page, and truly that's pretty much where I left off. So I ended up pulling out just a whole bunch of the pattern papers in this collection and started with the circle punch. I love circles, and so once I started punching, then I kind of had the idea what I was going to do in my head, which you will see right away. I really like mixing pattern paper, so obviously that's where I'm going with this on my project. And yeah, so you can see I really like that floral paper there. Well, it's kind of a really pretty delicate floral. It's not super bold, but I really like that, and I like both sides of it. So I ended up going back and punching the B side, and then I punched a few circles just from some plain white cardstock, and now I'm going to make some pie charts. I love pie charts, and I haven't done some in quite a while actually, so I'm just cutting my circles in half, and some of them I'm gonna leave full, and then I'm cutting them down into quarters. There's no fancy way of doing this. You can make a template, I've done that before, or you can die cut a whole bunch on your digital die cut machine, but truly it really is pretty simple to just cut your circles in half and then in half again. And then even if you want to make thinner pies, you just use your scissors to trim it down. Unless you want them all to be completely uniform, then that's a little bit different. And I'm really just trying to vary up the shape and color for each of these pies. I don't want them to all be the same. So I'm trying to just vary everything around, and I really want to make sure I have some of the red on pretty much all of the pie charts if possible, because I want that pop of red on the blue cloud black background. So that's kind of the only real thinking I'm doing at this point. And so there are my pie charts, and you can see I just cut a few smaller, and that's just to add a little bit more color and change up the look of the pie charts. You can see they all look a little bit different, even though they all use the same kind of design. So I went ahead and I stitched them all. You didn't see that because I cut it out, but I stitched all the pie charts just around the edge and through the pie. And then I decided that even though I liked that background, I wanted to add some mint green paint, which is not something I normally do. So for me to paint on a background paper was pretty wacky for me. So I decided to do that. And I just kind of did it around where the pictures were going to go. So I kind of added just like a bit of a frame, I guess, and then I just cleaned that up. You can see on my desktop. And the mint is just like a tiny subtle color there in behind. I know I'm going to use this big paper clip here on the top of probably the top photos where I liked it better. So I'm going to leave that there. And then I have the ephemera pack as well. I'm probably going to use a lot of that. And then in the meantime, I decided I'm going to add those pie charts to some flowers to make them a little bit larger, because the circles I used were 2 inches and they just weren't quite big enough for what was now developing my brain. So I just cut those from white cardstock, and you can see I'm just adding a circled pie chart to each one. And here's where I do all that wacky sewing. So I'm just going to go around and around the outside now that they're on the flower, and trim them off. So I'm going to do that to each one of them. It just kind of adds a nice little detail excuse me, to each of the flowers. And of course my thread breaks on my machine about 1,000,000 times, so I'll edit that out. All right, so I have all those flowers done now. Excuse me, they're all oh, what's wrong with me? They're all stitched, and now I'm just kind of trying to place them around where my photos are going to be. So I really want to have pops of all the colors kind of tucked in and behind photos. I want to distribute those other colors throughout the background, because the background is like a light blue with the clouds. It's fun, but I wanted to make sure we had more color. So I kind of have decided on the placement of these flowers in these areas. So I'm just gonna stick that down a little bit, and then I'm going to do some more sewing. So I'm going to add this 5th one. Where am I going to add? I think around here, just to kind of layer it on. And then I'm going to do more sewing. Now, yes, this time I'm using my large sewing machine. Last time I used my little one, and I think I was being a little too aggressive with my smaller machine, and I think I may have broken it. It made a huge ka-chunk, and so now I just pulled out my old normal machine. It's also a Janome machine, and I'm just adding lines across. So I'm going across the pie on the pie chart now on the sewing machine, and I'm going right across. No fancy way of doing it. I'm just kind of going across each of the pies just to kind of like add that texture to the flowers, and it kind of looks pretty in the end. I'll show you a close-up at the end of the video. Looks pretty good and really pretty simple thing to do. And the other thing is this obviously sticks everything down really well when you do it this way. Just make sure that everything's really in place. That's why I use kind of this like low-end dot adhesive that I use, because I do quite a bit of sewing. If you use something a lot stickier, just don't use a lot of it, and make sure you use it in the areas of the project where you're not going to be sewing. Now I'm doing this pretty fast. As you can see, I am sewing around the inside of the pie chart now. And honestly, I don't care too much if it's really wonky. I'm trying to do the best I can to have it straight. But if you go around like a circle for sewing and you do it 2 or 3 times and you overlap it a little bit, it kind of looks like you did that on purpose. That way, if you have any crooked lines, you won't see them as much. It won't be quite as obvious. And yeah, obviously this video is sped up, so I didn't do it quite that quick, but you just have to kind of go with the flow and let it kind of happen naturally. And I find if you, like I've said before, I have said this before, if you try to make it imperfectly perfect, it will look perfect because no one will know it wasn't supposed to be that way. All right, now I'm just trimming off the edges, and I'm going to end up adding some droplets now and regretting it later because you'll see what happens. I kind of smush on one of them, so that's just fantastic. So on one of those pie charts there up in the top right, I'm going to take my photo, and you'll see beside it there, to the left of that photo, there's a kind of the smush, the blob kind of from the black mist kind of did a weird thing. But that's okay. I had these floral die cuts already cut just to the side, just kind of extras from another project, and I kind of just layered that in there, and that covered it up. So that's what you call an embellishment opportunity. So now I have some buttons just for my stash, and I'm just going to add a few of these into my flowers just to kind of fun them up a little bit. I'm going to add twine instead of sewing through like I normally would, and then add a glue dot and just stick them down. And I've just punched some 1-inch circles ahead of time, and so that is what I'm adding them to. And that just kind of funs up those flowers a little bit. And these dots are super sticky, so I peeled it off, and it actually didn't make a huge mess of my project. Sometimes they're super sticky, and I'm just so used to ripping things off, I don't realize that is going to happen. Sorry, I hit my camera there. All right, excuse me. So now I have those buttons down, and now I'm going to pull out the ephemera pack, and you can see there's so much fun stuff in there. I really wanted to use some of these sentiments. That one's a little bit too long, so I'm going to try to trim it down and see if I can get it to fit a little better. So that's better there. I thought about using some of the flowers in the collection, but the flowers that I used for those pie charts were pretty, like, I want to say plain, I guess is the word, clean lined, I guess. So those other flowers are more pretty, I would say. So I end up using just some of the smaller ones here in and around, and one of the hearts as well. And I don't really use the floral elements. I'm going to save those for another project. And what am I going to do here? I'll add this little heart. And then I thought about tucking in flowers underneath here, which now I think looked pretty good, but I didn't go with it. And then I have these cork shapes here. I really wanted to use some of those, but I couldn't really make one work with what I have on the page. The stars are really cool. Trying to decide what I want to use. You'll see I'm going to pick off a whole bunch. So I end up with one tiny little heart, and that's okay. And then I'm going to use some of these puffy stickers. Really like the arrows on these puffy stickers, and there's some flowers here as well as just some simple circles, so I'm going to add some of those. I toyed around with having a larger title kind of underneath my photo there, but I ended up just going to my stash and grabbing a set of Technique Tuesday stamps that I had and adding a little bit of a sentiment. I really love these stamps. I think if I had my own collection, not that I have good handwriting because I totally don't, but I would want to have something like that in there. Something like that you could use a lot. So I'm adding roller date stamps, and let's see, what else did I want to add? Oh, I have some enamel dots. You got to have a few enamel dots. So I'm actually using these to cover up some more of those black blobs that I screwed up with. They're perfect to hide mistakes like that. So I'm going to add that. I'm just currently digging through my enamel dot drawer. I have a whole drawer with enamel dots and buttons and that sort of thing. And I'm just trying to find, you can kind of see there in the bottom left corner, I'm just trying to find the right ones. I have some gold ones here that work really well with that gold star paper that's in this collection. So I'm just adding that, and yeah, that's pretty much how that one worked out. You can see all the little flowers there and this pie charts and just the fun pattern paper and how it all kind of looks together. I really like this one. I hope you do too. And that's pretty much it. So that was the Dream Big collection from Fancy Pants. I hope you will check it out. You can find it online now. And that's it. So we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.